Have you ever stopped to think that, in the midst of the daily hustle, a simple pause can change a life? Kindness is not a weakness, it's the strength that turns anguish into hope. Today, we'll discover how the balance between work and empathy can be the key to a full life. Get ready for a story that will touch your heart.
Show yourself to be kind and empathetic. Often, those who approach you carry deep issues, hidden in the inner layers of their being. Stay calm, for you have already had the opportunity to perceive clarity in solidarity. Preserve your stability when someone arrives in distress. Be gentle and understanding. The world is full of people in pain, but you possess the well-being of good moral health. True strength is not in ignoring others' pain, but in being the safe harbor someone needs. Today, Apollo will show us how this choice can transform not only the lives of others, but your own.
The coffee shop was packed that Tuesday afternoon. Cups clinked against saucers. The smell of freshly ground beans mixed with the buzz of hurried conversations. Beatrice, 28, tried to keep her eyes fixed on the spreadsheets open on her laptop. The numbers danced on the screen, organized in columns that seemed to multiply every second. Her headphones hid half of her attention, while her mother's voice, distressed on the other end of the line, poured out concerns, a misunderstanding between relatives, bills that wouldn't close, an old wound reopened by misinterpreted words. Beatrice's face revealed the tension of someone who feels the constant weight of a choice, to advance in her promising career in the financial sector, or to take care of the bonds that sustained her since childhood. The dilemma always seemed to be the same: success or affection, goals or people. The narration that would echo in her mind could be the same as so many others. Professional life cannot be a competition with your personal life. True success is born from balance, not sacrifice. While typing a quick response to her boss, her phone vibrated again. It wasn't her mother. A short but devastating message lit up the screen. "I can't take it anymore. I need you." It was Anna, her coworker and a close friend. Almost at the same time, a sound alert marked the arrival of an urgent email from the company director: reduced deadline, immediate analysis, and a response expected by the end of the day. Beatrice closed her eyes for a moment, took a deep breath, and like someone who finds courage in the simple act of stopping, made her decision. She closed her laptop, put the phone to her ear, and firmly whispered, "I'm here." Anna didn't take long to arrive. She walked into the coffee shop with a pale face, tear-filled eyes, and shuffling steps. She sat across from Beatrice and, too weak to hide her suffering, let the tears flow. Beatrice didn't try to fill the silence with hurried advice. Wisdom in that moment wasn't in offering solutions, but in holding space for the pain to be heard. She held her friend's hand gently, conveying more with a gesture than any word could ever achieve. The people around them continued their busy routines, immersed in impromptu meetings and nervous laughter, but at that table, two women were building a silent refuge, a territory where empathy was more valuable than any corporate result. Beatrice knew that, deep down, many people carry invisible burdens. And that, often, a silent shoulder is more urgent than 100 rational explanations. When Anna calmed down, Beatrice walked her home, making sure she wouldn't be alone. She returned to her makeshift office in the apartment, looked at the accumulated demands, and reorganized her schedule. She delegated some tasks, asked colleagues for support, and surprisingly, noticed that the team responded promptly. She didn't miss the deadline or compromise her credibility. On the contrary, she earned respect. Her boss noticed the serenity with which she handled pressure and the confidence with which she distributed responsibilities. What seemed like a risk turned into an example. Leadership is not born from absolute control, but from the ability to preserve humanity in the midst of a storm. Back home, the silence of the night invited her to reflect. Beatrice opened the Bible that rested on her bedside table and read in Luke chapter 6, verse 31, "Do to others as you would have them do to you." These words brightened her moment and hit her with clarity. It wasn't about coldly dividing her time between obligations and affections. The true balance was in choosing, at every moment, what had eternal value. Professional success could be a conquest, but being present for those who suffer was a legacy. She then realized that the world needs less haste and more listening, less competition and more care, and that her moral health, built on faith and respect, was a silent wealth that allowed her to be a support for others. The next day, the evening sun gilded the city park. Beatrice walked alone, her phone tucked away, with no notifications to distract her. The gentle wind touched her face, and the peaceful smile she wore revealed something new. She hadn't lost anything. On the contrary, she had gained a rare clarity. Life is not measured only in achievements, but in how many times we are able to offer a gesture of empathy when someone arrives broken by the way. As she walked, she thought, the world needs less haste and more balance. Less competition and more empathy. Because the true conquest is not in accumulating victories, but in living with purpose and in peace. Beatrice is immensely happy to have understood that the success she sought was not made only of numbers and reports, but of shared glances, clasped hands, and the serenity of knowing that, when someone cries out for help, she can respond, I'm here.
The city pulsed with its insane routine. Cars, horns, the rush of those who have no time for anything. It was there, in that frantic rhythm, that Beatrice found her stage. A successful professional, driven by goals, spreadsheets, and the constant search for efficiency. Her days were a race against the clock, until a pause, unexpected and simple, imposed itself. Anna, her coworker, seemed out of place. Her shoulders were slumped, her gaze distant. Beatrice, with her packed schedule, almost ignored her. But the passage in Luke chapter 6, verse 31 echoed in her mind, treat others as you want to be treated. In that instant, Beatrice understood that listening to Anna wouldn't be a waste of time. It would, in fact, be an investment in a better world, an act of empathy that would connect her to Anna's humanity. She stopped, took a deep breath, and asked, Anna, how are you doing? The conversation that followed didn't talk about work, but about life, fears, and a silent loneliness that Anna carried. Beatrice could have ignored her, justifying it with the urgency of professionalism. But another passage reached her, Philippians chapter 2, verse 4, which says, each of you should not look only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others. There, she made the choice to be a servant, to extend a hand. This did not make her less professional, but rather wiser. The wisdom of understanding that success is not measured only in numbers, but in the ability to care. The day progressed, and Beatrice's workload was still there. But now, something was different. The lightness of a kind act accompanied her. The passage in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 8, is right in its assertion, be compassionate, kind, humble. It says that kindness is not weakness, but the greatest courage you can have in a world that only values efficiency. Beatrice's kindness was not an empty gesture, it was the strength of being human. Beatrice stood up from her chair. Now, she felt complete. We are left with the question, what small act of kindness can change our day and someone's day today? Next, let's listen to a timely reflection that Apollo prepared for us.
Beatrice's story shows us something that many still struggle to understand. Success is not the enemy of empathy. How many times have we believed that to get ahead, we need to be tough, inflexible, almost made of stone? However, when we look closely, we realize that true greatness lies in uniting firmness with tenderness. Beatrice teaches us that there is no contradiction between ambition and compassion. When we balance our professional goals with caring for others, we reap more than just concrete results. We reap peace. And peace is a silent, but profound conquest. It manifests when we lay our head on the pillow without a heavy conscience, when our heart calms down because we did what was right. We live in a world that is accelerating. Clocks don't stop, deadlines get shorter, messages pile up. In this scenario, being empathetic can seem like a waste of time. But if we stop to reflect, we will see that it is precisely in the gesture of pausing, listening, and welcoming that the relationships that sustain our journey are born. The world, yes, cries out for results. But it cries out even more for people capable of building bridges, wiping away tears, and extending a hand in the middle of a storm. It cries out for men and women who understand that the race for success becomes empty if, in the end, we arrive at the finish line alone. Have you ever thought about that? What's the point of accumulating achievements, titles, and recognition if we don't learn to share the weight of the journey? The true triumph is not just reaching the top, but ensuring that our climb also brings other people with us. Beatrice discovered that the most respected leadership is not born from imposition, but from the ability to listen. And listening is, perhaps, one of the noblest forms of loving. Because by listening to someone in pain, we say with our silence, you matter, your pain matters, your life matters. And here is the big question that echoes in the heart of each of us. Are you ready to be that person? Ready to balance firmness and compassion? Ready to transform haste into presence, competition into collaboration, and goals into purpose? If this video touched your heart, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to not miss our next reflections. Your like and your comment help us bring hope to more people who, just like you, are looking for balance and meaning. And don't forget, in the description, You'll find a sociological focus on the power of kindness in the corporate environment, an invitation to see empathy as a transformative force in the workplace as well. And before you go, I leave you with one more invitation. If this message resonated with you, there is another video on the screen that will deepen your journey of self-knowledge. See you soon. And remember, think strong is living with purpose.